Hi, welcome to HowtoDandD. My name is Fred Wheeler and today I want to talk about Dungeons & Dragons, but not Dungeons & Dragons 5e. I'm going to talk about the Monster Manual, or Monster Manual number 2 for Dungeons & Dragons 4e. And hey, it's got Demi Gorgon on the front cover, so it's got to be good, right? What was actually quite good about this book is on the back they do actually show you roughly what you're likely to get in your book, and of course you get a little bit of cool artwork as well. So this is an impressive collection of monsters to fill in the spaces that were missed in the first Monster Manual for Dungeons & Dragons 4e. And hey, they have really tried to go all out. We've got the table of contents, and there's got to be in the vicinity of maybe 170 plus monsters and variations. And a whole lot of really cool artwork to start off with, which I think is a great idea. I love this scene. How to actually read your Monster Manual stat block is covered again in the very beginning as always, and the standard layout continues. We get the description, the stat block, the tactics for your monster, some bit of monster lore with some DCs, difficulty class, things like that, and then of course you get the sample D&D encounters and how to sort of put them together. It's not so much how to, it's more here is a sample of what a encounter might look like and what sort of monsters might go together well. And that's really sort of how this book was put together. Reasonable artwork for what you've seen in the past. I always thought it was pretty good myself, although sometimes I kind of felt like the book should have had more work that was less cartoony. Sometimes it comes off as being cartoony. We do get beholders in the book. Yes, there are beholders and variations on it. But what I did notice is a lot of the artwork, not always, it's quite small, or it's not as much as I would have hoped for. And yes, the book is just so full, jam-packed with stat blocks for how to use your monsters. The monsters are tougher in many ways than the first manual. We get the Cockatrice. Finally, we get the Cockatrice, so you can try and turn somebody to stone. But of course, this Cockatrice is, well, it's a little bit tame if you ask me. There seems to be an awful lot of chances to avoid turning to stone. This book includes a few primordials, so we get a Colossus, which I thought was one monster I always wanted to use and never got a chance to use because of the challenge rating for this monster, which if I was smart I would have just ignored. The problem is that monsters now seem to be more about being crushed. The idea is to crush the monster because the player's characters are using superheroes. Cyclops attack and the Dark Mantle. It does fill in some of the iconic monsters we were hoping for, and it includes the prime selling point for this book, which is Demi Gorgon. You get a lot of information on Demi Gorgon, a huge stat block. It's supposed to be a killer monster, and well, it was nice to see it, but I never actually got a chance to use it, so it's sort of lost on me, and probably was lost on a lot of people who wanted to use Demi Gorgon but found that there just wasn't a point that was going to be usable because you went up from level 1 right up to level 30. It was just crazy. Personally, I think including Demi Gorgon in the book certainly was a selling point for the publication, but a bit of a cheap move as far as I'm concerned. What I was finding, and I suspect a lot of other people were finding, is that the monsters were just not scary anymore. They weren't as frightening and deadly. They didn't have the kind of, don't want to get into a scrap with them. They were just too tame to be of any kind of significance. And also too, we were missing the backstory, the lore, all of the things that people craved. When you experience a monster in Dungeons & Dragons, are you really interested in the kinds of powers they might have, or do you really want the backstory behind them and how they interact and their motivations and why they do what they do? And of course we didn't get that anymore. What we got was a game more inclined to be a video game, and also trying to appeal, should I say, to a newer audience, and it certainly did to a lot of people. There are a lot of people who still enjoy Dungeons & Dragons 4e and the monsters that are presented, but it also annoyed a whole lot of people as well, which is not really very helpful at all. So when I think about opening a Monster Manual, the last thing I'm thinking about is the really cool mechanics inside the book. that's not really the drawing factor for me. It's always going to be the motives, the story, the concept behind them, how they work in the world, all of the stuff that really ties a monster into a story and makes them interesting for the players to actually interact with their characters. That's why you have a monster manual. And I think that's what was lost when they started pumping out Dungeons & Dragons 4e. Now, that's not to say that some of them don't have good elements to them, because they most certainly do have really good elements to them. There just wasn't enough of it. The game was more, as I said, more of a game for people who liked video games. There's nothing wrong with video games. I mean, I love video games. In fact, if I am not careful, I will watch far too many video games, and I probably will just stay and lock myself in a room in a darkened location and just play them endlessly over and over again. That's sort of how I operate when it comes to video games. So I do get the concept about let's appeal to an audience who are used to playing something like a video game. But it really did annoy a lot of people by doing that, and you don't get anywhere by annoying people. What you want to do is draw people in and keep the people you have already in the hobby, and it didn't do that, unfortunately. Monster encounters were not epic. The monster encounters were supposed to be epic. They were actually all designed to be, every single battle is going to be of this sort of difficulty, and that is it. And so everything felt exactly the same. But the number of things that they could do, the powers they had, the number of different types of creatures you would have on the table, just made it really awful to run as a dungeon master, I found. And is why I stopped running those sorts of games. Dungeons & Dragons 4e just couldn't do it for me anymore. It was too hard. Combat is notorious. Absolutely notorious in the length of time it would take to actually play through. At higher levels, particularly from about level 10 onward, it just got unwieldy. And who is going to play a game at level 10 and then go on to play at level 20? It just doesn't happen. I never saw anybody even get anywhere remotely close to level 20. And this game used to go up to level 30, which is why we had monsters with challenge ratings of 23 and 26. But why did you need to have it there in the first place? It just didn't make sense. And of course the encounter building rules and the rules for round building encounters have never been very good anyway. It doesn't matter what the system is, but it just made it more difficult because they were trying to codify and turn anything that they possibly could into some sort of mathematical equation. Talking to monsters really was programmed out of your players. Another Hydra. I love the Hydra. This is actually probably a better picture of a Hydra, and the Razor Hydra. I don't think I ever used it, but it gave you a couple of options, which is quite nice. But unfortunately, as you play this game and you see the book, it's quite clear that this game was designed to program out the concept of a social interaction with monsters. The idea is that you just destroy all things that aren't you, and once it's been destroyed or conquered, you are successful. The concept of level appropriate encounters seemed to be, well, it just seemed absurd and impossible to achieve. That's one of the things I always found. I couldn't really achieve what they were wanting in terms of level appropriate. And it used to crop up in my game with players who would say, Fred, I have a question. Oozes, we've been covering oozes quite a lot recently, but why is this encounter running this creature? Because that's not level appropriate for our class and our level of play. I don't understand why we needed to worry about appropriate levels, but apparently that was the thing, and then you get called on it, which is why I really disliked the game in the end. And I jumped on the bandwagon. I was one of those people who bought the books and kept buying the books, ran the game for quite a while until a new game came along, and I started playing Dungeons & Dragons 5e, which actually was next. We were playing the alpha version of it. There are a few more dragons in this book, as you might have noticed, but much of the book have mostly high level monsters rather than low level. There are a few, but most of it has been designated to higher level play, not the very echelon, not epic monsters, but yeah. I just found that headache of running these monsters, particularly with the way that they were sort of structured, was just really difficult. And there's no way to fix something that's broken. And this book was trying to fix things that were broken by making the monsters a little bit harder than they were in the first monster manual, but it wasn't really enough. And of course we get the glossary at the back, which is always nice. A good feature though is the continuation of the index, and it's indexed by level, which is really helpful provided that the level system was going to work, which it broke down. By the time you got to level 8 or 10, you could just stack encounters together and the players had no problem. Now most of this video has been beating up on Dungeons & Dragons 4e and talking about some of the issues that I had and some of the issues I saw with the actual manual itself. But you'll notice I still have the book in my collection, so there must be something good about it. I'm still going to refer to it when I'm starting to do other encounters, even when I'm running the game of Dungeons & Dragons 5e and not 4e. If you found this video helpful or informative, please share and like the video. Please subscribe to my channel if you have not subscribed. If you like this sort of content, hit the bell button to be notified when I publish a new video and when I go live. If you want to support my channel, you supported my channel by watching this video. I have 500 more. I do one every single day. There's bound to be something you will find useful. I don't do Patreon, but down in the description you'll find an affiliate link to the book depository and Amazon where you can buy stuff online. I get a small commission, you pay exactly the same price, and you don't even have to buy the thing that I have linked to, just go through the link. So tell me, what was your experience of running Dungeons & Dragons 4e and the monsters from the Monster Manual 2? Were you impressed? Did you dislike them? Did you like them? Was there something that could have been done better? Give me some feedback, let me know what you think. So don't go and sell and throw away those old monster manuals. Keep them, they're going to be useful one day. And hey, till next time, keep rolling those 20s.